Hyunwoo Kim stood in the Great Hall of the Galactic Council. The massive room stretched high above him, filled with strange creatures from across the galaxy. Some looked like giant insects with too many arms. Others had smooth blue skin and big black eyes. A few floated in the air inside clear bubbles filled with pink gas. All of them were staring at him with anger or disgust. He had been Earth's voice in this place for 12 years. 12 long years of watching these aliens make rules that hurt humans. 12 years of being told that humanity was too dangerous, too wild, too unpredictable to be trusted with real freedom. Today was different. Today was the end. The Velkari speaker stood at the center of the room. It looked like a praying mantis the size of a horse, with 4 arms and eyes that glowed red. Its voice came through the translation device as a cold mechanical sound. The human containment protocol has been approved, the Velkari announced. Vote count, 847 in favor, 1 against. The human species will be restricted to their home system and current 12 colonies. No further expansion will be permitted. All human military vessels must be reduced by 70%. All human research into faster-than-light travel is now forbidden. Hyunwoo felt his hands shake, but not from fear, from rage. Pure, burning rage that he had been holding back for years. Behind him, Dr. Soonja Park shifted in her seat. She had been his friend and advisor since he first came to this place. She knew what was coming next. Ambassador Kim, the Velkari continued, do you accept these terms on behalf of the human species? Hyunwoo walked slowly to the speaking platform. His footsteps echoed in the silent hall. Every alien eye was on him. They expected him to bow his head and accept their decision. They expected humans to be good little pets, staying in their cage, like always. They were wrong. I have something to say, Hyunwoo said. His voice was calm and clear. For 43 years, humans have been part of this council. We have followed your rules. We have paid your taxes. We have sent our best people to help build your cities and fix your machines. We have shared our discoveries and our knowledge. He paused, looking around the room at all the alien faces. And what have we gotten in return? Restrictions. Limits. Rules that apply only to us. You fear our growth, so you try to stop it. You fear our ideas, so you try to control them. You fear our independence, so you try to take it away. A Zephyrian delegate made an angry clicking sound. Humans are naturally aggressive. You must be controlled for the good of all species. Aggressive? Hyunwoo laughed, but there was no humor in it. We are the ones who built your hospitals when the plague hit Kepler 442. We are the ones who designed the food systems that ended hunger on New Altair. We are the ones who taught your children when your own teachers gave up. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small device. It looked simple, just a black box with a red button. You want to contain us? You want to put us in a cage and keep us there forever? His voice grew louder. Fine, but we will not stay in your cage. The Velkari speaker raised one of its arms. What are you saying, human? I am saying that the United Earth Federation withdraws from the Galactic Council effective immediately. Hyunwoo's words rang out across the hall. We renounce all treaties, we cancel all agreements, we reject all obligations to this body. The hall erupted in chaos. Aliens jumped up from their seats, shouting and screeching in dozens of languages. The translation devices could barely keep up with all the angry voices. You cannot do this, screamed a blue-skinned Altarian. The contracts are binding. Your species signed the Galactic Compact, added a floating hegemony representative. You are bound by law. Hyunwoo smiled for the first time in months. Laws made by people who never wanted us as equals. Contracts signed under threat of economic warfare. Compacts that benefited everyone except humanity. He held up the device. We choose freedom. Soonja Park stood up behind him. She had worked with alien scientists for 15 years, trying to find cures for diseases that affected multiple species. She had saved millions of alien lives with her research. Now she looked at them with sad eyes. We tried to be your partners, she said softly. We wanted to explore the galaxy together, to learn from each other, to build something beautiful among the stars. Her voice grew stronger. Instead, you made us your servants. You took our gifts and gave us chains in return. The Velkari speaker buzzed angrily. If you leave the council, you will have no protection, no trade agreements, no access to galactic resources. We don't need your protection, Hyunwoo said. We never did. He pressed the red button. Instantly, every human ship, station, and colony across the galaxy received the same message. The words appeared on screens, played through speakers, and flashed across communication systems in every human settlement. From the core worlds to the outer rim, Operation Exodus begins now. All human personnel return to designated safe zones immediately. Abandon all non-essential equipment. Destroy all classified technology. We are going home. The effect was immediate. In the Andromeda shipyards, human engineers stopped their work and began downloading files from the computers. On Proxima Station, human doctors started packing medical supplies and deleting research data. Across 17 star systems, humans began moving with purpose and speed that surprised their alien colleagues. What is happening? Demanded the Zephyrian delegate. What are your people doing? Hyunwoo was already walking toward the exit. Soonja followed him, along with the small group of human staff who worked at the council headquarters. We are leaving, Hyunwoo said without looking back. All of us. Every human in the galaxy who wants freedom will return to human space, and we will take nothing with us except what we brought originally. This is madness. The Velkari speaker's voice rose to a shriek. You cannot survive without the galactic economy. Your technology depends on our resources. Hyunwoo stopped at the great doors of the hall. He turned back one last time to look at the hundreds of alien representatives who had just voted to cage his species. You never understood us, he said, quietly. You thought we were just another species to be managed and controlled. You saw our ships and our weapons and our cities, and you thought you knew what humans were capable of. He smiled, and this time it was not angry or sad. It was confident. You have no idea what we are capable of when we are truly free. Soonja pressed a button on her own device. Across the galaxy, human-built systems began shutting down in sequence. Power grids that humans had designed went offline. Computer networks that human programmers had created started erasing themselves. Manufacturing systems that human engineers had built stopped working entirely. Within hours, the aliens would begin to understand what they had lost. But by then, it would be too late. The humans walked out of the Galactic Council building and boarded their shuttle. As they lifted off from Nexus Prime, Hyunwoo looked down at the alien city below. It was beautiful, with towers that reached into the clouds and bridges of light that connected floating platforms. Humans had helped build much of it. Now the humans were leaving. Do you think they will try to stop us? Soonja asked. Hyunwoo shook his head. They still don't believe we will really leave. They think this is just politics, just a negotiation tactic. He looked out at the stars. They will understand soon enough, and by then, we will be gone. The shuttle jumped to faster-than-light speed, heading for the edge of the galaxy. Behind them, the greatest civilization in galactic history was about to discover that it had just made the worst mistake in its long existence. The age of human cooperation with the galaxy was over. The age of human independence was about to begin. Trade Coordinator Velthak stared at the reports flooding his desk. The 8-armed Zephyrian had managed galactic trade networks for 20 years, but he had never seen anything like this. Numbers that should have been going up were crashing down. Supply chains that had worked perfectly for decades were falling apart. Sir, his assistant Kixtal buzzed nervously. We have another emergency report from the Kepler sector. Velthak's blue-gray skin darkened with stress. What now? The automated mining stations have stopped working. All 17 of them. The extraction equipment is offline, the processing plants are shut down, and the transport systems won't respond to commands. What about the maintenance crews? That's the problem, sir. The maintenance crews were all human. They left 6 weeks ago. Velthak felt one of his hearts skip a beat. Kepler sector produced 40% of the rare metals that powered galactic civilization. Quantum computers, faster-than-light drives, medical equipment, everything depended on those metals. Can't we send replacement crews? Kixtal's antenna drooped. We tried, sir. The replacement crew from Altair arrived last week. They can't figure out how to restart the systems. The humans took all the technical manuals with them, and the computer. Systems are locked with codes that no one knows. This was happening everywhere. On Proxima Station, Dr. Mi-Kyung-han watched from her hiding place as alien medical staff struggled with equipment they had used every day for years. She had been Earth's liaison to the Galactic Medical Consortium, working to share human medical knowledge with other species. Now she was a fugitive. The Altarian government had declared all remaining humans to be security risks and ordered them arrested. Mi-Kyung had gone into hiding in the station's lower levels, in maintenance tunnels that the aliens rarely visited. Through a ventilation grate, she could see into the main hospital ward. A group of Altarian doctors was standing around a diagnostic machine, arguing in their clicking language. The translation device in her ear picked up their words. It was working fine yesterday, one of them was saying. We just push this button and it tells us what's wrong with the patient. I tried that, replied another. It keeps showing error messages. Something about calibration parameters and quantum resonance drift. Mi-Kyung almost laughed. She had tried to teach them about calibration procedures dozens of times, but they had always said they were too busy to learn. They just wanted humans to fix things and keep them running. The third doctor was reading from a manual. It says, here we need to adjust the quantum field generators every 48 hours. But I don't understand these numbers. What's a resonance cascade threshold? Maybe we should call the human technicians? The humans are gone, remember? They all left. Mi-Kyung watched sadly as patients waited in long lines. These were people she had helped care for. Zephyrians with their complex respiratory systems, Altarians with their fragile circulatory networks, even some Velkari with their unusual metabolism. All of them needed medical care that the local doctors couldn't provide without human technology and expertise. But the Altarian government had made its choice when it voted for the Human Containment Protocol. Now they were dealing with the consequences. The situation was even worse on the agricultural worlds. President Do Hyun-seo of the Arcturian Colonial Assembly was facing riots in 3 major cities. The food distribution system that fed 2 billion aliens across 12 worlds was collapsing. Sir, reported his aide, we have another crop failure on Arcturi 7. The automated farming systems are offline. Do-hyun looked out the window of his office at the crowds gathering in the street below. They were hungry and angry, and they blamed the government for the food shortages. What about the backup systems? The backups were designed by human agricultural specialists. Without them, we don't know how to manage the growing cycles. The soil analysis systems are showing error codes that our people can't interpret. Do-hyun had been one of the council members who voted for the Human Containment Protocol. At the time, it had seemed reasonable. Humans were expanding too fast, taking too many resources, asking too many questions about things that didn't concern them. Now he realized that humans hadn't just been taking resources. They had been providing something even more valuable: knowledge. Human agricultural experts had designed the farming systems that fed most of the galaxy. Human engineers had built the power grids that kept cities running. Human doctors had created the medical technologies that kept people healthy. Get me a secure communication line to Earth, Do-hyun ordered. Sir, the quantum communication network is down. It was maintained by human technicians. Do-hyun sat down heavily in his chair. Even the system that let different species talk to each other had depended on humans. The crisis was spreading faster than anyone had expected. The Proxima Trade Federation, which controlled shipping routes between the core worlds and the outer colonies, was reporting massive delays and cancellations. We can't find our ships, Trade Minister Kolvex reported to the Federation Council. The navigation systems are malfunctioning. The route calculations are wrong. Ships that should take 3 days to reach their destinations are taking 2 weeks, if they arrive at all. Council Chairman Thexmore clicked his mandibles nervously. What about the automated navigation buoys? The buoys were programmed by human navigation specialists. Without regular updates and maintenance, they're giving out incorrect information. Some of them have gone completely silent. The problem was that humans had been the galaxy's best navigators. They had an unusual ability to think in 3 dimensions, to calculate complex routes through hyperspace, and to adapt quickly when conditions changed. Most aliens relied on pre-programmed routes and automated systems, but the automated systems needed constant updates and adjustments. And the people who knew how to do that were gone. Even the mighty hegemony of Tau Ceti was struggling. Supreme Commander Zarthok stood in his war room, looking at displays that showed failing infrastructure across his empire. "Report," he commanded. "Sir, we have power failures in 17 sectors. The fusion reactors are operating at 60% efficiency and dropping. Our engineering teams can't figure out what's wrong." Zarthok's massive form bristled with anger. The hegemony controlled the largest military fleet in the galaxy. They were supposed to be the most advanced civilization in known space. What about our own engineers? Are they incompetent? His chief engineer, a nervous Zephyrian named Vix Tal, spoke carefully. "Sir, our engineers are excellent at maintaining existing systems, but these reactors were designed using human engineering principles. The efficiency algorithms, the safety protocols, the diagnostic procedures, they all came from human experts who worked with us over the past 30 years. Are you telling me that our entire industrial base depends on primitive humans?" "Not primitive, sir. Different. Humans think about engineering problems in ways that we don't. They see patterns and solutions that our people miss, and they were always willing to teach us, but what? We never listened very carefully. We thought we knew better." The same conversation was happening in government buildings across the galaxy. The Altarian Republic was facing blackouts as their power grid became unstable. The Zephyrian Union was dealing with communication breakdowns as their networks failed. The Velkari Dominion was watching their manufacturing capacity drop by 40% as automated factories shut down one by one. The aliens had built their entire civilization around the assumption that humans would always be there to fix things, to solve problems, to keep everything running smoothly. Humans had been so helpful, so willing to share their knowledge, that no one had bothered to learn how to replace them. President Do-hyun Seo finally managed to establish contact with Earth through an old emergency communication system. The signal was weak and fuzzy, but he could make out the face of a human official on his screen. "This is President Do-hyun Seo of the Arcturian Colonial Assembly," he said. "I need to speak with your leadership immediately." The human on the screen looked tired. "I'm Secretary of State Jae-hoon Park. What do you want, President Seo?" "We need to negotiate. The food distribution crisis is getting worse every day. My people are starving." "Your people voted to contain humanity to one star system," Jae-hoon replied calmly. "You made it clear that you didn't want our help anymore." "That was a mistake. We didn't understand how much we depended on human expertise." "No, you didn't. And now you're learning." Do-hyun felt desperate. "Please, we can offer full restoration of human rights, complete voting representation in the council, even shared leadership positions." Jae-hoon was quiet for a moment. Then he shook his head. "President Seo, you had 43 years to treat us as equals. Instead, you treated us as useful servants. You took our knowledge, our innovations, our willingness to help, and you gave us restrictions and limitations in return. We can change that. Maybe you can. But the time for cooperation is over." Jae-hoon leaned forward. "You wanted to contain us, so we contained ourselves. We removed ourselves from your civilization entirely. What happens to you now is your problem to solve." The communication ended, leaving Do-hyun staring at a blank screen. Outside his window, the crowds were getting larger and angrier. The galaxy was learning what it was like to survive without human help. Commander Yejin Park flew her stealth ship through the darkness between stars, watching the galaxy from the shadows. 2 years had passed since humanity left the Galactic Council. 2 years since her father, Sunja Park, had walked out of that great hall on Nexus Prime alongside Ambassador Hyun-woo Kim. Now Yejin was leading a scouting mission to see how the aliens were handling life without human help. What she found was worse than anyone had expected. Recording log. Day 43 of reconnaissance mission. She spoke into her ship's computer. Current location. Outer edge of the Altarian system. Observing from maximum stealth distance. Through her ship's powerful sensors, she could see the once mighty Altarian Republic struggling to survive. Their capital world, which had been home to 4 billion people, was now partially dark. Only about half the city lights were working. The others had gone out as power systems failed and no one could fix them. Sensor data indicates massive population movement. Yejin continued her log. Large groups of Altarians are leaving their homeworld and settling on more primitive colonies, where they can survive without advanced technology. It was happening everywhere. The great galactic civilization that had seemed so powerful and advanced was falling apart without human expertise to hold it together. Yejin had visited 12 different star systems over the past month, and the story was always the same. Failing infrastructure, abandoned technology, and aliens struggling to survive with pre-industrial methods. Her communication system beeped with an encrypted message from home. Yejin, this is Admiral Taemin Yoon. Return to base immediately. Phase 2 is about to begin. Yejin set course for the coordinates she had memorized but never written down. They led to a place that didn't exist on any galactic map, hidden in the vast emptiness between spiral arms where no one ever went. When she arrived, she couldn't believe what she saw. A massive structure was floating in space where there should have been nothing. It wasn't a space station or a ship. It was something entirely new. An artificial world built from converted asteroids and held together by gravity fields that humans had only dreamed about 3 years ago. Welcome to New Terra, said Chief Scientist Bo-Ram Kim as Yejin docked, her scout ship. Bo-Ram was Ambassador Hyunwoo Kim's sister, and she had been Earth's top physicist before the Exodus. This is impossible, Yejin breathed as she looked around the docking bay. The walls were made of materials she didn't recognize, and the gravity felt perfectly normal even though they were in deep space, far from any planet or star. 2 years ago it would have been impossible, Bo-Ram agreed. But when humans are free to research without alien restrictions, we can accomplish amazing things. She led Yejin through corridors filled with bustling activity. Everywhere she looked, Yejin saw humans working on projects that seemed like pure science fiction. Engineers were building machines that could convert empty space into solid matter. Scientists were studying energy patterns that could create artificial gravity without massive planetary bodies. Technicians were assembling devices that could generate heat and light from quantum vacuum fluctuations. How is this possible? Yejin asked. The Galactic Council spent 40 years telling us that certain types of research were too dangerous, Bo-Ram explained. Artificial intelligence beyond a certain level, quantum manipulation of space-time, matter conversion at the atomic scale. They said these technologies were forbidden because they might be used as weapons. They entered a vast laboratory where hundreds of human scientists were working. Yejin saw experiments that would have been impossible under Council restrictions. Artificial intelligence systems that could design new technologies faster than any biological mind. Quantum computers that could manipulate the fundamental forces of reality. Matter converters that could transform asteroids into breathable atmosphere. So we were right, Yejin said. The Council was holding back human development? Not exactly holding it back, Bo-Ram replied. They were afraid of it. They saw how quickly humans learned and adapted, and they worried that we would become too powerful to control. So they created rules to slow us down. They walked onto an observation deck that looked out into space, but instead of the usual black emptiness between stars, Yejin saw something incredible. A new star was shining in the distance. Not born from natural stellar formation, but created artificially by human technology. We call it hope, Bo-Ram said proudly. The first star ever created by an intelligent species. It will burn for 10 billion years, providing light and energy for the worlds we're building around it. Yejin felt her mind struggling to understand what she was seeing. We can make stars now? We can make everything now. Stars, planets, entire solar systems designed exactly the way we want them. Boram pointed to several bright dots of light that hadn't been there 3 years ago. Each of those is a human-built star system. We're not looking for habitable planets anymore, Yejin. We're creating them. In another part of New Terra, Admiral Sang-Ho Lee was overseeing the construction of humanity's new military fleet. These weren't the ships that humans had built while under Council oversight. These were vessels that pushed the boundaries of what was physically possible. Status report, Admiral Lee commanded. The Prometheus-class vessels are ahead of schedule, reported Captain Hyun-Min Cho. 50 ships completed with full quantum manipulation capabilities. Each one is more powerful than an entire Council fleet. What about the exploration ships? 200 Genesis-class vessels are ready for deep space missions. They're equipped with full matter conversion systems and artificial ecosystem generators. Each one can build a new colony from raw materials in empty space. Admiral Lee nodded with satisfaction. These ships weren't designed for war, despite their incredible power. They were designed for something far more ambitious, the creation of an entirely new form of human civilization that didn't depend on finding suitable planets or negotiating with alien governments. Sir, called out Lieutenant So Min Young from the communication station. We're receiving signals from the Galactic Council. They're offering to negotiate again. What are they offering this time? Full restoration of all human rights, equal representation in Council leadership, complete technological freedom. They want to discuss terms for human return to galactic civilization. Admiral Lee was quiet for a moment, looking out at the artificial star system that humanity was building. Then he shook his head. Send them our standard response. Thank you for your interest. Humanity is no longer available for your civilization. We are building our own. The message that went back to the Council was polite but final. Humanity had moved beyond the need for alien approval or cooperation. They were creating something unprecedented, a technological civilization that could build its own stars and planets wherever they wanted them. Dr. Soonja Park, now in her 70s but still sharp and energetic, was leading the project to create Earth's first artificial planet. She stood in the control room watching as massive machines converted raw asteroids into a world that would be perfect for human life. Atmospheric composition is optimal, reported environmental engineer Dong Hyun Kim. Gravity is set to Earth, standard. Ocean placement is complete. The continents are forming according to the planned design. Soonja smiled as she watched their new world take shape. It was beautiful. Green continents under blue skies with cities already being grown in the locations they had chosen. This wasn't like terraforming a dead planet, which took centuries and never worked quite right. This was building a perfect world from scratch. How long until it's ready for settlement, she asked. 6 months for the basic ecosystem to stabilize. Dong Hyun replied, full readiness for large populations in 1 year. And we can build these anywhere? Anywhere we want, Doctor. We're not limited to star systems with suitable planets anymore. We can create suitable planets wherever we choose to put them. Soonja thought about the aliens who had voted to contain humanity to one star system. They had tried to put humans in a cage to limit their growth and expansion. Instead, they had forced humans to develop technologies that made the entire galaxy seem small and limited. Ma'am, called out communications specialist Ji-Won Lee, we have a message from President Woo-Jin Park. She wants to address all human settlements about the future of our species. Soonja nodded. It was time to announce the next phase of humanity's evolution. President Woo-Jin Park's message went out to every human settlement in their new domain, from New Terra to the mining facilities around artificial stars, from the exploration fleets pushing deeper into empty space, to the research stations where impossible technologies were becoming routine. Fellow humans, President Park began, 3 years ago, the Galactic Council tried to contain us. They feared our growth, our curiosity, our refusal to accept limitations that seemed arbitrary and unfair. They wanted to keep us in one small corner of the galaxy, dependent on their approval for everything we did. She paused, looking directly into the camera. Today, I can announce that humanity has transcended the need for their galaxy entirely. We are no longer bound by the need to find suitable worlds. We create our own worlds. We are no longer limited by the number of stars that can support life. We create our own stars. Captain Jin-Ho Lee stood on the bridge of the UEF battlecruiser Indomitable, watching the evacuation fleet assemble around him. 200 ships of all sizes floated in space near Kepler 442, the mining world that had been humanity's farthest outpost for 8 years. "Status report," Jin-Ho said to his crew. "All civilian transports are loaded, sir," reported Lieutenant Bo Young Nam from the navigation station. "Engineering crews have finished their work on the surface. We're ready to move." Jin-Ho nodded. Through the main screen he could see the planet below. Kepler 442 had been a dead rock when humans first arrived. Now it was a thriving world with cities, farms, and massive mining operations that pulled rare metals from deep underground. The aliens had always been jealous of how quickly humans could turn empty worlds into productive colonies. They were about to find out what happened when humans left. "Signal from the surface, Captain," said Communications Officer Tae-Ho Park. "Engineer Choi reports all demolition charges are in place." Jin-Ho felt a sadness in his chest. This world had been his home for 3 years. He had met his wife here, in the colony's main hospital where she worked as a nurse. His daughter had taken her first steps in the park they built near the southern city. But the Galactic Council had made their choice. They wanted humans contained and controlled, so humans would leave and take everything they had built with them. "Contact Engineer Choi. Tell her to proceed." Down on the planet's surface, So-Young Choi was finishing the most difficult job of her career. She had helped design most of the major systems on Kepler 442, the fusion reactors that powered the cities, the atmospheric processors that made the air breathable, the quantum computers that managed everything from traffic to weather control. Now she was destroying it all. "Team leaders report in," she said into her communicator. "Power grid is set," came the voice of her assistant, Min-Ho Jung. "All fusion reactors will overload simultaneously. Complete meltdown in 30 minutes. Computer cores are wiped," reported Database Specialist Haye Jin Yu. "All research data, manufacturing specifications, and operational procedures have been deleted. Quantum drives are being physically destroyed. Manufacturing plants are ready," added Industrial Coordinator Woo Seok Han. "All equipment will be slagged beyond repair. Nothing useful will remain." So-Young looked around the control room one last time. She had spent 2 years building this place from nothing. The walls were covered with pictures drawn by the children in the colony schools. The coffee maker in the corner had been a gift from her team when she got promoted to chief engineer. "Execute Operation Clean Sweep," she said. Across the planet, carefully placed charges began to detonate. Not random destruction, but precise demolition designed by the same humans who had built everything in the first place. Fusion reactors went into controlled overload, their cores melting down into radioactive slag that would be useless for centuries. Computer systems fried themselves with power surges that burned out every circuit. Manufacturing equipment collapsed as key support structures were removed. Within an hour, the thriving human colony on Kepler 442 was reduced to empty buildings and broken machines. Evacuation complete, So-Young reported to the fleet above. "All human personnel are clear. Nothing of value remains." Captain Jin-Ho watched the final shuttle dock with his ship. "Take us out of orbit. Signal the fleet to jump to the next coordinates." The Indomitable and its escort of civilian ships vanished into faster-than-light travel. They left behind a world that looked intact from space, but was actually a hollow shell. The aliens would find buildings and roads and empty factories, but none of it would work anymore. This same scene was playing out across 17 star systems. On Proxima Station, Dr. Kyung-Soo Bae was overseeing the evacuation of the largest human medical facility outside of Earth space. The station had been built around a natural asteroid, carved out and expanded over 15 years until it was home to 2 million people. "All patient records have been transferred," reported Nurse Supervisor Mi-Sun Cho. "Emergency cases have been stabilized for transport. Medical equipment that we designed is being removed or destroyed." Kyung-Soo nodded sadly. This hospital had saved lives from dozens of species. Human doctors had worked here alongside alien colleagues, sharing knowledge and techniques. They had cured diseases that had plagued certain species for thousands of years. But the alien doctors had never bothered to learn how the human-designed equipment actually worked. They used it, but they didn't understand it. When the humans left, most of the station's advanced medical technology would become useless metal and plastic. "Doctor," called out Misun, "we have a problem. The Altarian medical team is asking why we're removing the quantum diagnostic arrays. They say those machines belong to the station, not to humanity." Kyung-soo walked over to where a group of blue-skinned Altarians was standing near the main diagnostic center. Their leader, a physician named Velthor, looked confused and angry. "Dr. Bay," Velthor said, "surely you cannot mean to take these machines. They are vital to station operations. Thousands of patients depend on them." "These machines were designed by humans, built by humans, and maintained by humans," Kyung-soo replied. "More importantly, they require constant adjustment and calibration that only human technicians know how to perform. But we use them every day. You push buttons that we programmed for you. You read results that our software interprets for you. You've never actually understood how they work?" Kyung-soo gestured to the complex diagnostic array. "Tell me, Velthor, what would you do if the quantum resonance calibration drifted by more than 3%? The Altarian stared at him blankly. "I thought so." Kyung-soo turned to his team. "Strip it down. Take anything that has human technology in it. Destroy what we can't carry." Similar conversations were happening throughout the galaxy. On mining worlds, human engineers were shutting down extraction systems that alien supervisors didn't understand. On trading stations, human logistics coordinators were taking apart supply chain networks that had taken decades to build. On research facilities, human scientists were erasing data and removing equipment that represented centuries of accumulated knowledge. The aliens watched in growing confusion and anger. They had never realized how much of their civilization depended on human expertise. Humans had been so helpful, so willing to share their knowledge and skills that the other species had stopped learning how to do things for themselves. Admiral Tae-min-yoon coordinated the massive evacuation from his flagship, the UEF carrier Sovereign. His ship was one of the most advanced vessels in the galaxy, equipped with technology that the Galactic Council had tried for years to restrict or control. "Status report from all sectors," he commanded. "Kepler sector evacuation complete," reported his aide, Commander Ji-hoon Seo. "Captain Lee's fleet is en route to Rendezvous Point Alpha. Vega sector is nearly finished," added Intelligence Officer Sun-mi Kim. "The manufacturing complexes on Vega 7 have been successfully demolished. No usable technology remains." "What about the civilian populations on mixed colonies?" asked the Admiral. "Approximately 60,000 humans have chosen to remain with alien communities," Sun-mi replied. "They've been warned that they will likely face suspicion and restrictions from alien governments. The rest are coming home." Tae-min nodded. This had always been part of the plan. Operation Exodus had been in development for 3 years, ever since Human Intelligence Services had discovered that the Galactic Council was planning to restrict human expansion. Every human colony, every human facility, every human installation had been quietly prepared for rapid evacuation. The aliens thought humans were impulsive and emotional. They had no idea that humanity had been planning this withdrawal with careful precision. "Admiral," called out his navigation officer, "we're receiving communication requests from 17 different alien governments. They want to negotiate." "Ignore them," Tae-min said. "We're done negotiating." On the bridge's main screen, he could see the last human transports jumping to faster than light speed. Behind them, they left empty stations and broken machines. Ahead of them lay the unknown. "Set course for the outer rim," the Admiral commanded. "Take us beyond the galactic edge. It's time to see what humans can build when no one is telling us we can't." The Sovereign and its massive fleet of escorts and civilian ships vanished into the darkness between stars. They were heading for a place the aliens had never explored, carrying with them the hopes and dreams of an entire species that had finally chosen freedom over security. Back in the systems they abandoned, emergency lights began flashing as critical systems failed. The aliens were about to learn what the galaxy looked like without human help. Supreme Chancellor Kithamar stood before the emergency session of the Galactic Council, looking out at half-empty seats. Many species had stopped sending representatives because their governments had collapsed or were too busy dealing with internal crises to participate in galactic politics. The Great Hall that had once housed delegates from over 800 species now held fewer than 300. The rest had either fallen apart entirely or retreated to isolated worlds where they could survive with primitive technology. "The situation continues to worsen," Chithmar announced, his voice echoing in the mostly empty chamber. 63% of all star systems are experiencing critical infrastructure failures. The Altarian Republic has officially dissolved. The Zephyrian Union has split into 17 separate territories. 3 entire species have gone extinct due to medical system failures. A Velkari delegate rose from her seat. "What about the reverse engineering projects? Surely we can figure out how human technology works." "We have been trying for 5 years," replied Chief Science Coordinator Velnoth. "We have managed to restart some basic systems, but nothing advanced. Human engineering principles are fundamentally different from ours. They think in patterns that we cannot easily replicate." "Then we force them to help us," screeched a representative from the Proxima Trade Federation. "We send military fleets to human space and demand they return." Kithmar's tentacles drooped with exhaustion. "With what military fleets? Most of our ships can't navigate properly without human navigation systems. Our weapons rely on targeting computers that we no longer understand. Our communication systems are failing because we can't maintain the quantum networks." The truth was worse than he wanted to admit. The few scouting expeditions they had sent toward human space had simply vanished. No wreckage, no distress signals, no trace at all. It was as if they had flown into empty space and disappeared from reality itself. Ambassador Yoon-hee Cho sat in her office on Earth, reading the latest reports from galactic space. She had been Ambassador Hyun-woo Kim's student and closest aide before becoming his replacement. Now she was Earth's primary contact with the outside galaxy, though there wasn't much contact anymore. "The latest intelligence reports are in," her assistant Ji-hee Lim said as she placed files on the desk. "How bad is it this time?" Yoon-hee asked. "The hegemony of Tau Ceti has lost control of 40% of their territory. Their remaining forces are using weapons that are 50 years out of date because they can't maintain the modern ones. The Velkari Dominion is trying to trade food for technical assistance, but no one has technical knowledge to trade anymore." Yoon-hee shook her head sadly. She had tried to warn them. During her years working with Hyunwoo, they had both seen how dependent the galaxy was becoming on human expertise. But every time they raised concerns, the aliens dismissed them as human arrogance. "Any word from the council?" They sent another formal request for negotiations. Same terms as before. Full human rights, equal representation, shared leadership of the council. And our response? President Park's standard reply: "Humanity is no longer available for your civilization." Ji-hai hesitated. "Ma'am, do you think we're being too harsh? Some of these reports describe real suffering. Species dying out, entire population starving." Yoon-hee was quiet for a moment. It was a question she asked herself often. But then she remembered the votes. 847 species voting to cage humanity, to limit their growth, to treat them as a problem to be solved rather than partners to work with. "They had 43 years to treat us as equals," she said finally. "They chose to see us as servants instead. Now they're learning what happens when the servants leave." In the deep space between galaxies, humanity was building something that had never existed before. Captain Hee-sun Kim commanded the colony ship Horizon as it approached the construction site of humanity's first truly independent star system. This wasn't like the artificial systems they had built near the Milky Way. This was completely separate, thousands of light years from any existing civilization, in a region of space so empty that no alien species would ever find it by accident. "Status report," Hai-sun requested. "Star ignition is complete," reported Chief Engineer Min Kyung Park. "Stellar stability is optimal. The new sun will burn steadily for 12 billion years." Through the main view screen, Hee-sun could see their artificial star shining brightly in the cosmic void. Around it, massive construction platforms were building, planets from raw materials harvested from distant asteroids and comets. Each world was being designed specifically for human needs and preferences. Planetary construction progress. World 1 is ready for atmospheric seeding. World 2 is in final geological phase. Worlds 3 through 7 are in early formation.
Stages. Min Kyung smiled with pride. Each planet is being built to different specifications. High gravity for industrial purposes, low gravity for research facilities, Earth standard for agricultural colonies.
And the ecosystem development. Genetic engineering teams are ready to introduce perfectly adapted life forms as soon as the biospheres are stable. Plants and animals designed specifically for each world's conditions. No compromises, no making. Do with whatever evolution happened to produce. He soon nodded. This was the future of humanity, not adapting to worlds that already existed, but creating perfect worlds designed from the ground up. Every planet in their new star systems would be ideal for human life and human purposes. Ma'am, called out Communication Officer Tae-Young Song. We're receiving a priority message from Earth. President Park is making a major announcement. President Woo Jin Park stood in the council chamber of New Geneva, Earth's capital city, but she wasn't speaking to the old Galactic Council. She was addressing the leaders of humanity's new civilization, representatives from dozens of artificial star systems, hundreds of constructed worlds, and thousands of space-based communities that had never existed before. 5 years ago, President Park began. The Galactic Council voted to contain humanity. They were afraid of our growth, our innovation, our refusal to accept arbitrary limitations. They wanted to put us in a cage and keep us there. She gestured to a holographic display that showed the current state of human space. It was vast, far larger than Earth's territory had ever been under Council rule, and growing every day. Today, I can announce that humanity has not merely survived their rejection, we have transcended it completely. We are no longer a galactic civilization. We are something new. A stellar-scale civilization that creates its own stars, its own worlds, its own future. The display showed the latest projects. Star systems being built in the space between galaxies, artificial worlds designed for specific purposes, space habitats that housed millions of people in perfect comfort. All of it built by human hands, and human minds free from alien oversight or approval. The aliens wanted to study us, to manage us, to control our development for what they called the greater good. But they never understood what humans become when we are truly free to reach our potential. Dr. Soon-Ja Park, now in her 80s but still leading humanity's greatest engineering projects, watched the speech from her laboratory on New Terra. Around her, younger scientists worked on technologies that would have been considered impossible just 10 years ago. "Doctor," called out her assistant, Young Ho Shin, "the matter conversion systems are ready for the next phase." Soon-Ja walked over to observe the latest breakthrough. Her team had developed technology that could convert empty space itself into useful materials. Not just converting asteroids or other existing matter, but actually creating matter from the quantum vacuum. With this technology, Young Ho explained excitedly, we won't even need to harvest raw materials anymore. We can build entire star systems from nothing but empty space. Soon-Ja smiled. This was what the Galactic Council had feared. Human innovation advancing at a rate they couldn't predict or control. They had tried to slow it down with regulations and restrictions. Instead, they had forced humanity to develop even faster and more dramatically than would have been possible under their oversight. "How many new star systems can we build per year with this technology?" she asked. "As many as we want, Doctor. The only limitation is how fast we want to expand." Back in galactic space, the final meeting of the Galactic Council was taking place. Only 47 species were represented now. The rest had either collapsed entirely or withdrawn to isolated worlds where they could survive without advanced technology. Supreme Chancellor Chithmar looked around the nearly empty hall and made the announcement that everyone had been expecting. "The Galactic Council is hereby dissolved," he said quietly. "We no longer have the membership or resources to maintain galactic civilization. Each remaining species will return to their home systems and manage their own affairs as best they Can. There were no protests, no arguments. Everyone knew that the great galactic civilization that had lasted for thousands of years was finished. Without human expertise to hold it together, it had collapsed into isolated fragments struggling to survive with whatever technology they could still operate. As the delegates filed out of the hall for the last time, Chithmar remained behind, looking up at the empty galleries where observers had once watched the proceedings.